Eric Lopez here for ESPN1080.com alongside Brandon Helwig of UCFsports.com. It's UCF Recruiting signing day. And Brandon, it's your 12th you've covered, and it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I guess so. It's always exciting when you don't know what's going to happen. In years past, you've kind of had an idea of who the commitments were, and there weren't going to be any signing day surprises. But this year, and just like last year, it was a little bit different. There's some guys deciding today, some guys that may be making decisions later on, so it was an exciting morning all around.
Let's talk about this class for George O'Leary. Fresh off, of course, the bowl win, the conference championship. How much of an impact does success ranked in the top 25 final poll? How much of a role does that have on this class?
It's got to play a major role. When I would talk to the guys and do interviews, you know, everyone was obviously aware of the conference championship. Everyone watched the Liberty Bowl. Everyone knows UCF beat Georgia. And I think UCF just wants to carry that success over. I think that's a big reason you saw a few junior college additions, which, as George O'Leary just said in his press conference, he's not really a big junior college guy. But that's why I think you see guys like defensive end Toby Jackson, you know, a 4-star rated player. He's already here and enrolled, and he's going to go through spring practice. And, you know, when you're losing a guy like Bruce Miller, I know there's some younger players, you know, behind him like Darius Null and Troy Davis and guys like that. But you want to keep the defense rolling. I think that's a big reason you see guys like Toby Jackson in here.
And this class is loaded. You got a lot of defensive linemen, like you mentioned. George obviously would like to stack up on that as much. Not as much on the wide receivers. Is that a concern?
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously, I think, the two biggest needs in this class really were defensive line and wide receiver. They did sign 3. There's possibly a 4th guy. Could be a late addition to the class. One of their top guys they did get who visited this past weekend, a guy from Miami by the name of Rennell Hall. He's a real speed guy, a track star, kind of a sleeper a little bit. Didn't have a whole lot of big schools on him, but he's signed. Jacques McElroy out of Lakeland Kathleen, and Brashad Perryman, who people might be familiar with the Perryman name. Brett Perryman, his father, played in the NFL and was a former University of Miami star, and possibly Rayshawn Williams. He's a commitment to the program. It was a snow day today. He lives in Denver. A lot of UCF fans probably know who his cousin is. His cousin is former night receiver Brandon Marshall, an NFL superstar as well. And that's kind of why actually Brandon is his guardian. And that's why Rayshawn has been living in Denver, and he just decided to finish out his senior year in Denver instead of moving with Brandon down to South Florida. So the one area where UCF probably would have liked to get, a taller receiver. You see guys in the league in Conference USA like DeAndre Brown, guys who are 6'5", and in that size. They were recruiting a junior college receiver who visited this past week named Anthony Denham. He opted to go to Utah instead, which is understandable. The guy's from the West Coast, and they were recruiting a guy named Juwan Caesar from down in South Florida. He opted to go to Michigan State. That's the one thing you really can't criticize the class, but the one thing you would have liked to have would be an impact tall receiver, a 6'4", 6'5" guy. That's the one thing that did not happen.
Of course, South Florida, the Knights have tapped into that. David Kelly gets a lot of credit. Miami Central High School, they get some more into this class. I mean, talk about the impact now that UCF is able to recruit down in South Florida. And, the state of Florida is tremendous in this state, but South Florida is really where the best talent's at.
Yeah, it really is the name of the game. I mean, if you're going to make a living recruiting South Florida, you're probably going to be pretty good when it's said and done. I mean, and everyone recruits down there. I mean, UCF found some intense competition from Louisville. It's kind of funny how Louisville and UCF go head-to-head on a lot of those Miami guys. But you mentioned Miami Central, Miles Pace. It'll be interesting to see what kind of impact he ends up having. They list him as a linebacker. I think when it's said and done, he'll be a defensive end. He's got enormous size coming in already. It was one of the summer commitments. I know everyone was excited to land him, so he was definitely a big get from down in South Florida.
From the class that we've got in right now, the people that have committed, give me a name or two that Knight fans should look for that could maybe make an immediate impact this season coming up.
Immediate impact. Of course, the junior college guys, that's kind of the easy answer, so I'm not going to include them because, as Coach O'Leary said, you don't sign junior college guys unless you think they can play right away. As far as guys coming in who will be freshmen, I think to keep an eye out on defensive tackle Demetrius Anderson. Yeah. He's down from Fort Pierce. Defensive tackle, that's one area where UCF could use a little bit of depth there. They lose Wes Savo this year. Obviously, bring it back Victor Gray, E.J. Dunson, Barry Snyder. There's some room there. There's some room for some young guys to contribute. Has amazing film. UCF had to fight off, late pushes by schools like South Florida, Wisconsin, Vanderbilt. A lot of schools try to get on him late.
Right.
And actually today, Rivals.com named him one of the nation's top 5 sleeper players in this class. That just based on kind of under the radar a little bit. I know he's rated 3 stars, but they really feel like he could be a really good player in college. I would look out for him maybe first.
And the thing also is some of these guys may not play right away. They'll probably be redshirted, but they'll make impact down the road, just like no different this upcoming season. There's guys from last year's class, Joshua Reese come to mind, that is expected to make a big impact this year. I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, we really can't almost comment on last year's class and what kind of impact, because almost nobody played. Almost everybody redshirted. A lot of receivers, obviously with a lot of seniors, and there's a lot of seniors, on defense. A lot of guys did not play in this last class, so it'll be interesting to see what happens this season and then specifically this spring.
2 things have I noticed O'Leary said in his press conference. Being able to recruit against the best schools in America. You mentioned that. At Michigan State, we lose a kid, Dawson, to USC. You lose a kid to Miami, but you also win some of those battles now. Talk about that. Also, that now there's so much depth that these kids that are coming in are not going to necessarily play right away. That's changed from the years past.
Yeah. As far as, as competing against top schools, I mean, UCF should be, put in that category fairly soon. I mean, if you're a top school, you're going to compete against other top schools. Really, the only thing, as Coach O'Leary just said, the only thing that UCF does not have right now is tradition. And the one thing he did not say either was the 3 letters BCS. Yeah. Maybe that changes soon. We all know there's a lot of talk about the Big East and UCF, and if that happens, great. But basically, UCF has everything these other schools have, except for tradition. They have the facilities. The location is great. I'm sure when some of these guys come and visit, maybe from out of state, and they come here, and we're standing here in Bright House Stadium. It's 80 degrees. I got a long sleeve. I'm kind of sweating, and it's a snow day. A lot of places everywhere else, they can't even. A lot of schools canceled their signing day press conferences because it was going to be dangerous for people to get out on the road. So UCF has a lot to offer.
So now signing day is over. Now there's still some guys that could still join UCF. That's the tricky part about this business. There's still some guys that could join later on. There's always change of minds. It's always an interesting process. You've done this now 12 years. What's your thoughts on this day? Everybody has an opinion on it. Some people think it's the most overrated day in the year. Some people think it's the most important day in the college because it sets the tone for the following season. What's your take on obviously this day?
But today is like the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really you're adding the new players to the program. People hype up the draft to no end. This is pretty much the same thing. It's fun. I mean, it's the off season. I mean, just like the NFL draft is kind of, the midpoint between the season and the training camp and all that stuff, and people get excited about that. So, as far as some of the hoopla about announcing, before I got here, I was hearing, I haven't read the details, I think Georgia got a commitment today, a guy who did an announcement. Apparently he pulled a live bulldog puppy out of a bag, and they're talking about maybe that was the first signing to incorporate a live animal. I mean, it's fun. I think it would be kind of boring if some of this stuff didn't happen in terms of signing day announcements. Even that's what fans get excited about. I mean, it's kind of boring if you get all your class committed in the summer and it's just, you kind of go through it. Fans enjoy recruiting. They want to see what players are going to get. It's a game within itself. People want to beat out rival schools. I mean, just like UCF beat Georgia in the Liberty Bowl, people get excited when UCF beats out Louisville for a top recruit. They get excited when they beat South Florida for a top recruit. It's a lot of bragging rights come with it.
So now you move to the spring. Spring game is in a couple of months, right in this very stadium, and guess what? 2012 recruiting starts tomorrow, right? In theory? When can it start?
It's already
begun.
I'm not worried about it. I'll worry about it tomorrow or the next day.
So it's a very interesting spring though coming up. You got the spring game, some interesting storylines. Rob Calabrese moves positions. You got guys from Jose back in the program, and that BCS talk, Big East, no Big East. That's going to be a lot of talk in that in spring. Very interesting spring. Take me through from here to the spring game.
Yeah, I expect the conference talk to only ramp up from here. A lot of speculation about what's going on, what might be going on with the Big East. A lot of talk of, what's South Florida doing. There's rumors that they're trying to block UCF. I know Mike Bianchi has been on that with columns from the Orlando Sentinel, and maybe they're pushing Houston because of the connections that the USF president has with their president. We'll see what happens. It looks like something would be resolved one way or another with that. It might be later on in the spring. I mean, who's to really say when that might happen? So that'll be something obviously that fans are going to be paying attention to, and obviously spring football. It's going to be an exciting time. Godfrey will continue to mature, see what happens, see who are these young receivers kind of blossom, because the receivers are going to be brand new. I mean, except for Quincy McDuffie and AJ Guyton.
Right.
Everyone else is gone, so that'll be interesting. Linebacker. see maybe some of these junior college guys that UCF brought in, see kind of what kind of roles that they're going to play. So it should be an exciting spring.
A new defensive coordinator, but he's an old defensive coordinator over here. Talk about that as well.
That move made the most sense. Really when I heard that Coach Huxtable was going to Wisconsin, I just said, I'd be shocked if it's not John Skladany if he doesn't get the job. Players really had a good bonded connection with him when his first year here in 2007. So I think it's a great fit. Obviously, being here the past year, he knows the players, he knows the system, he knows what Coach O'Leary wants. So I think that's going to be a good move all around.
Last question. ESPN has even mentioned him now. He's in recruiting circles. He's regarded as one of the top recruits in the nation. David Kelly, wide receiver coach. You know him well. Why is he so good? Why do the players like him so much? What makes him so good?
He's just got great people skills. He just really, when you talk to him, it's like you're going to church listening to the preacher talk. Yeah. I mean, he has that he has a soothing voice about him, and he talks to you like he's known you forever. When I talk to the recruits, I always ask pretty much the same questions. I always ask about, how do you like the coaches? Do you have a good bond with those guys? What did you think about him? And everyone, actually, I've lost track of the amount of guys he said, Coach Kelly's like another father. They really look at him like a father figure. So obviously he has a very good rapport with players and parents.
Well, that's Brandon Helwig, UCFsports.com. If you want more information on your top recruits, recruiting, who's UCF recruiting, beginning in 2012, this current class, go to UCFsports.com. All the details are there, every single detail. You'll hear from George O'Leary, the only site you can get O'Leary video, Donnie Jones, Terry Rooney, Todd Dagenais, the volleyball coach, Renee Loris Gillespie, everybody. There's nobody. UCFsports.com. We check it out. Also check it out here on ESPN1080.com for all the latest on UCF athletics. Carson Engel will have an article coming up next week on, of course, the Magic Connector. There's a Magic player with a connection to the UCF basketball. Who it is, you'll have to stay tuned as well. Carson will be with me next week from the UCF Arena as we'll talk more of the UCF basketball and maybe there's a little fallout from the recruiting. So, Brandon, we thank you for appearing.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Eric Lopez. This has been ESPN1080.com.